see the movie My Left Foot?
Thanks for this.
This friend of mine, Joe Biner, he was born with cerebral palsy. You can get born with that stuff. And the teachers all thought that there was nobody in there. He couldn't communicate, he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. Yeah, but his parents stuck by him, and they knew that there was somebody in there. They were trying their hardest to get him out. He's the funniest guy in the world. And the way I met him was I initiated disabled river trips in the Grand Canyon a number of years ago, and I needed a disabled staffer. And so I called up a friend of mine who did disabled trips in Utah with a company she started called Explore. And she said, "You got to meet Joe." And so she sends me this little VHS tape of Joe on the Channel 5, Live at 5, in Salt Lake City. And they're doing these disabled river trips down the Daly Stretch just above Moab, which I know Steve Kenny knows, and real well. And then they show this guy rowing a boat, just looks like us, right? And then they show him hit shore, and he crawls off of his boat and gets his cane, and he kind of drags himself, you know how people with cerebral palsy walk, right, with his cane. And then they show people feeding him. The guy can't feed himself. He can't walk. He can't tie his own shoes. But he crawls onto a boat and he grabs the oars and stabilizes himself. He's rowed now since we met, and he was a staff on the Jumping Mouse trips. He's rowed the Grand Canyon 12 times. He's rowed this river a bunch.
Right? The reaction time and the coordination.
Well, as long as he doesn't let go of an oar. Like, we pop oars every once in a while, and we can just grab the oars. He loses an oar, it's over. And every trip he's done the Grand Canyon, the first trip he was Bedrock Joe, and the second trip he was Crystal Joe, because he's, lets go of an oar and it's over, right? But anyway, he's a pretty salty guy, and he's the funniest guy in the world, especially when he has a drink, and he drinks a lot. And he has salty language. But anyway, so he grew up in L.A., right, with his dad, Dennis, and so he goes through school. They teach him how to communicate. They teach him how to walk. Everything's cool. Now they're going to send him out to Grandma's, who lives out near where he lives now, Darby, Montana. This little one cow town out in Montana up here, and he's going to learn how to ride horses, right? So they get him a saddle and they get him a suitcase and they throw him on the plane, and everybody falls in love with Joe because he's really good, really funny and everything. And they land in Darby, Montana, and Grandma ain't there. And so there's this one little carousel, and everybody grabs their bags and leaves, and he looks around. The place is empty. Okay, he's all by himself in this one horse town in Darby, Montana, and there's his bag and his saddle going around the carousel. He goes, "Well, I figured I might as well be helpful." So I went over to the carousel, and I put my cane down, and I got my knees, and I go, "Okay, here we go. I'm going to grab my suitcase." Okay, 1. Suitcase going around the carousel, right? 2. He goes, 3. He goes, "I got it all right. Only I forgot one thing. My hand tends to seize up." He goes, so there I was, going around in the carousel on my knees, stuck to my fucking suitcase. He goes, and I couldn't let go. So I managed to crawl up on the carousel there, and I pried my fingers loose finally. He goes, and then I remembered my brand new saddle. So when Grandma showed up, there I was on the saddle, balloon around the carousel. So then he moved to Darby, and he and his dad, who's now in his late 80s, start a company called Rainbow Outfitters, and they're fishing guides, right? And Joe goes, "The company motto is no repeat customers." And you can tell that he's got a lot of repeat customers. Anyway, so one of my favorite stories about Joe is he's going backpacking. He wasn't living there, so he goes out to the Bitterroot, this beautiful mountain range. He's going backpacking. So he's going out. Now this is Joe with cerebral palsy's backpack, right? He loves to fish. So there's a lake, 1.5 miles down from the trailhead, and he's going to take a week. It's going to take him 2 days to get to the lake, right? He's going to fish for a couple days, and it's going to take him 2 days to get the 1.5 miles back, right? So he's got this beat up. Well, now he's got a beat up old piece of shit red pickup truck, but he used to have the beat up old piece of shit white pickup truck. So he drives this beat up old piece of shit to the gravel parking lot at the trailhead. And he gets his backpack on, and it's like takes him an hour and a half, 2 hours to do everything, right? And he finally gets all ready, and he's going hiking, man. and he starts up the trail, and he gets about 150 yards up the trail, and it starts to snow.
Oh.
Now, Joe doesn't do all that well, like normal. But now it's snowing, and he doesn't do it all well when it's snowing. So he figures, okay, this hike is screwed. It's over. He's going to turn back. Well, it takes him until 11 p.m. to get back to his truck. It's 150 yards in the snow. Because he's like slipping and falling, and then he's got to collect himself, and he's got to get his backpack back on, and then he goes and slips and falls. Anyway, he finally gets back to the truck. He's pissed off. He's soaking wet. He's just he's ruined his week. He throws his backpack in the back of the truck. He gets in his truck, which got the thing on the wheel, you know, where they can you can turn it really easy with one hand. And he goes 3 feet and bogs it. So, of course, now he's got to get it unbogged. So he gets out of the truck, and now he's like wallowing in the mud and the blood and the beer, you know, and he's like on his knees and hands, and he's digging a hole out of behind the tire, and he's grabbing sticks and rocks and jamming them down there and stuff, and he finally gets it out of the hole, and bam, and he bogs it again. Long story short, he finally gets out of this parking lot that's all slushy and stuff, and he gets down to Darby. And he's shivering because he shakes a lot anyway, but now he's shivering real bad. And he's covered with mud, he's soaking wet, he's really pissed off. It's a bummer of a day, right? It's like 1 in the morning, and he gets there and he drives into the parking lot next to the motel, and he just gets out of the truck and he slams the door, and he gets Elmer, that's his cane, right? And he looks at the motel, and he's just about to start for the motel when he hears a commotion behind him, and he turns around, and it's the bar, right? He goes, well, I looked at the motel, and then I looked at the bar, and then I looked at the motel, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just have a beer. So I went to the bar. He goes, I opened the door to the bar. He goes, every fucking cowboy and logger in the world is in this bar. And they're all got the cowboy hats and the caps. And all the hats are looking at me. And nobody is smiling. So I thought, oh well, I might as well have a beer. So I went up to the bar and I got on the seat there and I go, bartender, I'll have a beer and a straw, please. Right, he can't hold the glass, right? So, he's getting the shifty eye from the bartender, and he just feels all the looks from behind him and stuff. So the bartender pours him a beer and slams it down on the counter, and he goes, closer. Closer. He pushes it. He goes, okay, man, put the straw in the beer, please. Puts the straw in the beer. He goes, thanks, man. Starts to drink. He goes, it wasn't very long before I felt this tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and he goes, the biggest fucking cowboy in the bar was leaning over me, and he goes, what are you doing, boy? And I go, well, sir, I'm having a beer with a straw. He goes, by the end of the night, every fucking cowboy in that bar was drinking beer out of a straw. He goes, and we shut the place down, he goes, and then I had to make it to the motel. He goes, I don't walk that well anyway. He goes, I got out on the porch, and I'm looking across a parking lot that is a sea of mud puddles. He goes, well, I gotta get there. So he gets off the porch, and boom, she falls right into the first one. And he goes, I'm wallowing around, and I hear a noise behind me, and I look around, he goes, every cowboy in that bar was standing on the porch, betting on how many mud puddles I was going to fall into. And I fell into every fucking one of them. By the way, if you've ever talked to Joe Binder, yeah, right. Do I sound like him?
I had the privilege literally the privilege this summer sitting at the Salmon House when Joe Biner came up. And he and I and Jeffe shared about a half a dozen beers. And Jeffe sounds more like Joe Biner than Joe Biner. But you want to talk about, you never thought you had a bad day?
Yeah.
This guy's strength